Hello Gemini, my name is Keith Haswell and I'm your astrologer for the day. And it's nice to have the opportunity to be able to do your horoscope for you for July and August 2014. I've got 40 years experience in the business, 30,000 clients worldwide, and I'm a teacher on the subject, and I'm going to analyse your horoscope for your sign. It'll either be your sun sign or your rising sign, whichever one you prefer. What I'm going to do first of all is to tell you a few things about yourself, about your personality, and an analysis of your lifetime circumstances and conditions, some of them anyway. And then I'll look at the cycles that you're living through the movements of the planets in transit. The planets move through the houses of the horoscope, which are the segments of the horoscope that you have interest in. And as they do, they bring about certain events. They precipitate certain events into your life. And I'm going to be looking at the slower moving planets of Jupiter and Saturn, first of all, to give you an idea of the power of those and how they're working in your life at this particular time. And then I'll look at the faster moving planets, which are the bodies of the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars. And you just sit back and relax now, Gemini, and enjoy the journey with me, eh? First of all, I'll just run through a few things, a bit of an introduction to let you know where I'm coming from and where you're coming from also. You come from a long line of incarnations. You have lived hundreds of lifetimes, Gemini, to get where you are today. You're Mercury ruled, so you're very communicative in your nature, and you're very loving too. You're on the second ray of love wisdom, which is very, very important. Now, Gemini, you have lived hundreds of lifetimes to get where you are today, because all of us are tied into this this space-time rule set that we call our physical reality, and we're all signed up for a series of lifetimes until we reach a level of relative perfection. And then we'll move on into higher dimensions of consciousness beyond the human level altogether. But all of us are here, so all of us are not perfect, that means. Now we're all coming in and out of life time after time after time, and each time we recapitulate our gains that we made in our last lifetimes. And we've all got these archetypal parts of ourselves as well, the parts of the soul. Now our soul is the thing that confers consciousness upon us, Gemini. And what I'm going to do is to tell you a few things about the soul and how it functions in your life. It confers consciousness upon you, and it has several facets of itself. There's the infant, there's the child, there's the adolescent, there's the young adult, there's the adult, and there's the spiritual adult. So they're all the different faces of the soul. Archetypal aspects of the soul, what you might say, so that every lifetime that we come in, we've got the child there, and that is a location where we can express ourselves. And yeah, we come in and out of life time after time after time, each time going through those different phases of our growth and becoming more and more conscious as we're progressing. Now, God and Goddess have given us two beautiful gifts, Gemini. They've given us, first of all, the gift of eternal life. We can never ever die. So we come in and out of life time after time after time until we reach that level of relative perfection, and then we move on into higher dimensions and we keep on growing and reaching and stretching and becoming more of who we really are. And the other gift that they've given us, Gemini, is the gift of the power to create our own reality in accordance and compliance with our conscious choice. Now, most of us don't want that responsibility. We want to be able to blame. We want to be able to blame mum or dad or that teacher or that offender or that ex-boss or that ex-spouse or whatever. We want to be able to blame someone for the events and conditions in our life rather than to take that responsibility ourselves. And so we're not taking that responsibility of choosing to create our reality in accordance and compliance with our conscious choice, so we do it subconsciously. And that means that we're doing it through our raw materials. All of us are creating all of the reality in our life. Every single event in your life, Gemini, is created by these raw materials. Nobody has any different raw materials. And whether you're creating your reality consciously or subconsciously, it doesn't make any difference. You are creating it all either way. Now, these raw materials are your attitudes, your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, and they sponsor decisions and choices. And then they're the raw materials that are being moulded and shaped into the events and conditions of your life through 3 tools. So the raw materials are shaped by the tools. And those tools are desire, imagination, and expectancy. So if you're not happy, Gemini, with the conditions and events that you're experiencing in life, you've got to look at those raw materials and see, what are your attitudes? What are your beliefs? Do you believe that you're unlovable? Do you believe that relationships never work out for me? Do you believe that financially you'll always be struggling? Do you believe that you're an unhealthy person? Do you believe that you're not worth anything? Do you have low self-esteem, problems with your own self-image, and feelings of not deserving and so forth? Well, these are all attitudes and beliefs that we have there in our subconscious mind that we've repeated thousands and thousands of times over the decades and in our past lives. And we bring all of that luggage with us, all that baggage with us into each lifetime. So the task at hand is to be able to recognize the fact and make the connection between those raw materials and the events and conditions that you're not happy with, and then to start changing those raw materials, to start changing those attitudes, changing those beliefs, changing those thoughts, changing those habitual thoughts and feelings that we have, that we all become enamored with. And then we can start doing it all consciously. We can start creating our reality consciously through the power of conscious choice instead of subconscious choice. But it's a long journey that all of us are on, and it's not an easy task to overcome those habit patterns of thought and feeling that we have all become enamored with. And we also become enamored with our addictions. Addictions to alcohol, addictions to drugs, addictions to sex, addictions to overeating and eating the wrong food, and addictions to overdoing it on the social side of life, and so on and so forth. So there's so many tests there that we're all facing, but this is what we're in, Gemini. We are in a space-time rule set, and that is a spiritual classroom. So it's very, very exciting when you start looking into it all and you realise that you've got a long history going back 90,000 years in this series of lifetimes that you've been living. And it's very, very exciting to know that you can now make those adjustments and changes inside of yourself which will change those outer circumstances and conditions in your life. So that'll be enough just as an introduction there anyway. Now I'll tell you a few things about yourself, Gemini, eh? You're a very restless person, first of all. Very restless, very adaptable, very changeable, and very loving. And you have a distinct sense of duality in your nature. You feel at times as if there's two people in the one body. Now you quite often work from home, and you like the idea of owning your own home. That's very important to you. And you generally use your imagination in terms of your methodologies of making money. So You're trying to use your imagination there to improve your finances. You're all the time reflecting upon things in your mind about ways and means of improving your finances and so forth. There can be money coming to you from a deceased estate, from parents or from relatives. Now, you do like to be the centre of attention in conversation and communication, Gemini. And you're a very proud person when it comes to the car. You like to keep the car nice and clean, and you have a proud disposition about you. You have a lot of social activities, perhaps with relatives and with neighbours. There's a lot of involvements there. Now, you're very meticulous about cleanliness around the home, and you quite feasibly have domestic pets around the home. You're very fastidious about keeping the place neat and tidy, and you bring a lot of work home to do after hours, I would suggest, from time to time. Now, you're quite often involved in your job in dealings directly with the public. You can be involved in the legal side of things. You can be involved in women's fashions, clothing, jewellery, cosmetics or artistic things. And you love going out to restaurants and places of amusement. You love to entertain out there with the general public. And so you like going out to shopping malls and things like that, and to restaurants on the sidewalk where you can watch the passing parade of people and so forth. You have a love affair with the general public. You have children who are quite feasibly artistic in their nature. And you have children who are perhaps quite musical in their nature as well. Now, you can get involved in some sort of affair or relationship with somebody that you work with at some time in life, Gemini. And there's a strong chance, Gemini, that you will marry somebody who comes from a different country than yourself, or who was born distantly from the place of your birth. There quite often is more than one marriage for you, Gemini. You'll certainly travel overseas and travel broadly with your spouse. Well, that'll do as far as an analysis of your personality and the overall lifetime conditions and events in your life. What I'm going to do now, Gemini, is I'm going to lay things out for you on a timeline. But first of all, I'll just tell you some things about Saturn and Jupiter. Jupiter is quite a slow-moving planet, and it takes 12 months to go through a particular house of your horoscope, Gemini. But you do have a change of Jupiter in your horoscope on the 17th of July. So on the 1st of July, it's in the second house of finances, and it's been there for the last 12 months. So you've had some gain financially, some improvement financially for yourself in the last 12 months, I would suggest. And there's also perhaps been quite a lot of money going out as well. You may have enjoyed a journey overseas or something like that in the last 12 months, sometime in that period. And then on the 17th of July, Gemini, Jupiter moves into the third house of your horoscope, so you're going to have a lot more dealings with relatives on a social level. One of them could travel overseas or interstate. There's a lot more involvement socially with neighbours as well during the next 12 months. And there's very good stars for you for buying and selling things from the 17th of July onwards, for buying and selling things or entering into contracts or agreements. Now, Saturn is very slow moving, Gemini. It takes 2.5 years to transit through a particular house of your horoscope. And you've got Saturn in the 6th house of your horoscope currently, and it's been there for at least the last 12 months. Now, what that means is that you've experienced some ill health in the last 12 months. There's been a lot of frustrations for you. Perhaps there's been the death of a domestic pet. There could have been some frustrations with regard to work, some periods of unemployment or difficulties with the job. Now, Saturn is retrograde in your horoscope in the 6th house too, and so up until the 21st of July. So in the early stages of July, therefore, you will have a few frustrations with regard to joint finances, and there can be sickness of a relative who lives distantly from you, and there can be some delays with regard to plans for travel. Then on the 21st of July, Gemini, Saturn goes direct, and it's still in the 6th house of your horoscope, but it goes direct. So it's still going to be causing problems for you though over the period of July and August with regard to your health. There's going to be continuing frustrations with regard to your work and stuff like that. Now I'm going to look at the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars as they move through your houses during this period of July and August, and we'll start from the 1st of July, and then it's on a timeline. So I don't make any changes to that statement of what I'm talking about with each of these until it changes into another house, okay? Now, starting off on the 1st of July, you've got the Sun in the 2nd house of your horoscope, Gemini. Now, that's going to see a focus of your personality attention upon finances and matters relating to your security. So all matters relating to your security and finances will come to the fore. You'll probably want to make some major purchase during this time, and Mercury is in the 1st house of your horoscope to start off with, and Venus also is in the 1st house of your horoscope. So on the 1st of July, Mercury and Venus are both in the 1st house of your horoscope. With Mercury there, you're more communicative, and there's going to be a lot more dealings with relatives. Venus is in the 1st house of your horoscope too, making you much more outgoing in your affections and much more loving in your nature, so that you're really feeling as if things are going well for you with your personal interests. Now Mars is in the 5th house of your horoscope, Gemini, on the 1st of July, and when Mars is in the 5th house of your horoscope, there can be a fair bit of tension and stress focusing through children, any children in your life. There's potential for some arguments and conflicts about the social side of your life or whilst out on a social function. You can be rather impulsive in love and relationships if you're in the market for a love affair. So there's potential there for jumping into a hasty relationship and getting your fingers burnt with Mars in the 5th house of your horoscope. There can be an accident involving a child or an injury to a child. Now the first change that we come to there out of this is on the 14th of July, Gemini. Mercury moves into the 2nd house of finances, and so that's going to see your mind wandering on to financial matters and concerns from there on until I tell you about any changes there. Venus moves into the 2nd house a couple of days later on the 19th of July. Venus moves into the 2nd house of finances, and that's going to see you wanting to make some major purchase. So you're going to be wanting to spend money to buy yourself a nice outfit or to buy some appliance or something like that. And there's going to be good stars for you financially during that period. Now on the 23rd of July, Gemini, the Sun moves into the 3rd house of your horoscope and remains there for a month. That's going to see a lot more social involvements with relatives and neighbours, and there's a focus upon contracts, agreements, motor vehicles and matters relating to your dealings with relatives and neighbours. On the 27th of July, Mars moves into the 6th house of your horoscope and remains there for a while. When Mars is in the 6th house, there can be arguments and conflicts, Gemini, with people that you work with, and there can be tensions and stresses to do with health. There's potential for bowel trouble with that sort of a placement, and you can be rather assertive and argumentative with people that you work with, so just try and calm things down in regard to the job, and be careful of accidents on the job as well. There's potential for injuries involving domestic pets, so you could get scratched by a cat or bitten by a dog. Now on the 1st of August, Mercury moves into the 3rd house of your horoscope, Gemini, and that sees a lot more communication with your hands and there's going to be a lot more communication with relatives and neighbours during that time, and there can be a contract or an agreement entered into. Now on the 13th of August, Gemini, Venus also moves into the 3rd house of your horoscope, and that's going to see a lot more social activities with relatives and neighbours. During that time you'll have a strong urge to listen to music from that time onwards, and there's going to be a lot more interest in driving and listening to music in the car. Now then on the 16th of August, Mercury moves into the 4th house of your horoscope. That can see a lot of extra communication around the home and with parents. And there seems to be a lot more communication with family and anybody who you class as your family. There can be contracts or agreements to do with property during that period. And the last one we come to, Gemini, is on the 24th of August, when the Sun moves into the 4th house of your horoscope. And when the Sun is in the 4th house of your horoscope, you're going to feel like entertaining a lot more around the home from there on for 30 days. So there'll be a lot more gatherings of family and social involvements with parents if they're not living with you. And there's going to be a lot more happiness there around the home to do with social involvements with those who cohabitate with you in the home. And that's as far as I go for you, Gemini. Now, where do you go from here? Well, where you go from here is to work on those raw materials. Those raw materials are perhaps causing a lot of problems for you in life. If you're not happy with the events and conditions that you're experiencing in life, it's time to stop blaming mother, or stop blaming father, or that ex-boss, or that ex-spouse, or that offender, or whatever. And it's time to accept responsibility for the events and conditions in your life, and to start turning your attention of your mind away from those thoughts and feelings and attitudes and beliefs of self-pity and fear and anxiety and doubt and insecurities and low self-esteem and problems with your self-image and feelings that you don't deserve, and beliefs that relationships never work out for you, and that life is a financial struggle for you, and that you're unlovable, and you'll never amount to anything. All of these things are put there in your subconscious mind quite often by parents, but then that is something that you can now deal with. And so the task at hand now is to deal with those raw materials by changing the direction of your thinking processes. So you change your direction of your mind. Your mind is constantly busy. We have 50,000 thoughts a day, and they're repetitive thoughts many times that are pumping those thought forms up. And these thought forms are living in your aura, and they're waiting for an opportunity to be activated into an event and condition in your life by the movements of the planets through the houses of your horoscope. So there's no getting away from it. It's all there, and that's the way that reality works. So where do you go from here to be able to achieve that goal of changing the habit patterns of thinking and feeling and your attitudes and your beliefs that you hold there in your mind and in your subconscious mind? Well, the way to go is to develop wisdom. Now, all of us are out there in life, Gemini, having experience in life. And we all have experience, and quite often that experience is very painful. And what we have to do in order to attain wisdom is we have to have an intake of knowledge as well. And an intake of knowledge can come from my CDs. I'm happy to give you 12 CDs free of charge out of my first book, What Really Matters, on astrology, meditation and reincarnation. And you've got the experience, and now it's time for an intake of knowledge. You'll never gain wisdom just from experience, and you'll never gain wisdom just from an intake of knowledge. It's a combination of the two, experience and an intake of knowledge, and synergistically out of it all comes a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts, and that whole is wisdom. So I suggest to you that you go to my website, www.mysteryofsirius.com, submit your birth details, and then I'm going to send you your chart so you'll know what your rising sign is. And if you want to know something more personal about your horoscope, you can get your horoscope number 2 done by me, which is only $10, and you get a beautiful 20-page printout of your personality alone, not something that's shared with everybody else who's your sign. There won't be another person born with the same horoscope as you for another 25,000 years, Gemini. So by having horoscope number 2 done, you find out where all your planets are and in what houses that they're in, what relationships that they're forming with each other, and what tests that you're facing in life. So you've set up a certain number of tests for yourself in this particular incarnation. You've said to yourself before you came into incarnation that you wanted to develop certain qualities and principles and values within yourself. And you wanted to pick up where you left off in your last lifetime. So that's the task at hand now, is to expand that consciousness. The name of the game is consciousness expansion and the development of wisdom. So that's the task at hand for you now, Gemini. And then if you want something more personal done, my horoscope number 3 is using my voice, interpreting all your horoscope for you, and telling you what's happened in the past, from major events in the past few years and major events in the future few years. And that you can have it done too at the going price. So that'll do me for this reading for you. Anyway, Gemini, subscribe to my videos so that you'll get every new video that comes out. I've got 125 videos there for you that you can also get free of charge. So there's a lot of stuff there that I'm putting out for you free of charge. And it's a wonderful opportunity that I've got here to be able to share these things with you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you grow and reach and stretch and become all that you can be. And so I thank you for your attentiveness here, Gemini, and I look forward to working further with you should you decide to submit your birth details. Thank you.